everyone. We're going to continue our data import journey by bringing in more essential data into our Power BI report. In the previous video, we learned how easy it is to import data into Power BI. However, the data for each table came from just a single source. In this video, we'll learn a great technique for importing data from multiple files within a folder. So, let's walk through the data we're importing and why this import option can be really powerful. Now, we've already imported the necessary categorical or text information into our model in the previous video. But you might have noticed we still haven't imported any data we can calculate, specifically the amounts or quantities we would want to aggregate. Now, in a perfect world, this data would be in a single source or location, but reality isn't always that easy. A data scenario that I'm sure many of us have experienced is one where our data is kept in a folder somewhere. More specifically, that data is scattered across multiple files inside that folder. A common form of this is when data is given to us each month in a non-cumulative fashion, meaning we get January's data, then February's data, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, this means we need to combine that data ourselves. This type of data cleanup is commonly done in Excel and is often time-consuming and even sometimes downright painful, depending on how disorganized the data is. However, it doesn't have to be. Power Query provides an easy way to do this process for you automatically. When creating a new query in Power Query, among the many data sources to choose from, there is an option to choose File Folder as a data source. That folder contains all the files and tables we'll be combining manually. Now, with Power Query, it doesn't matter if there's 2, 5, or 50 tables in this folder, because it will be able to combine all of them effortlessly into a single table result. That single final table will then get loaded into the data model and can be refreshed easily. All you'll need to do is add the new file to the folder, and the next refresh your report does will grab that new data. Now, it's important to note that this process expects a few things to be consistent for it to work correctly. Regardless of how many files you have, the table names in those files, if connecting to an Excel file with defined tables, does need to be the same. As example, let's say you had 3 files, 2016, 2017, and 2018 sales. Each file has a different name, and that's totally okay. However, the table in each file will need to be the same, such as sales table in this example. As long as that's consistent, this process will work beautifully. Alright, let's open our Power BI report file and get started. Now that we know the type of data we're going to be connecting to from a folder, let's go ahead and use our Power BI desktop file and bring that in. So as a reminder, we have on our C drive that Contoso data model folder, and inside of there's a folder called data tables that does contain 2007 data, 2008 data, and 2009 data. And we don't have to clean up this at all manually, we don't have to do anything complicated because Power Query is going to do all of that heavy lifting for us. But this will be the location of the data that we're going to be connecting to. Alright, so in our Power BI file, we're going to use that same Get Data button that we used before. So I'm going to hit the drop down arrow, and this time I'm actually going to go down to the More button down here to see the entire list of other connections that we have. There we are. Now contained in this list, you will see an option right here in the middle called Folder. That's the one that we're going to connect to, and we're going to point to the folder where our data tables are. I'm going to select this here, I'm going to hit Connect, I'm going to use this Browse button to navigate to the folder path. So we're going to go to the C drive, Contoso data model, and there's that data tables folder that's right here. So I'm going to click on that, I'm going to hit the OK button, I'm going to select OK one more time because this is the folder I want to use. And you're going to see it's going to open up a window right here that gives us the 2007 data, 2008 data, and 2009 data at the top. What this does is this lists all of the available files in this folder. Now, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 5, or 50, as I mentioned, it will always connect to all of them and be fully refreshable as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to combine these files together. So I don't want to hit the Load button, I want to actually hit Combine, the little down arrow next to this, and I want to select Combine and Load. Select that. There we go. And what that does is that opens up a window and it says Combine Files. Now what it's asking for here is select the object to be extracted from each file. Now think about it this way, if you're going to combine a bunch of tables together into a single table, you kind of need a master table to start with, meaning what is the table that I'm going to use as my template to then look for all of the other tables to align to it and essentially append or union for you SQL folks to add to the bottom. Now just like we did in the last video, it's important to know to make sure not to connect to a sheet and connect to a table whenever you can. And even in here we can see that. Like if I select the fact sales sheet, we have 2007 sales data, so some notes and information are here at the top on the first row, and we don't want that. If we connect instead to the fact sales table, that information is gone and it locks it in and cleans it up. We get that visible in the preview window right here. So I want to select that as my example file. Generally speaking, first file is fine. That usually goes just by alphabetical or numerical order in the file names. But if you ever needed to change that and you had a specific file type that specific file that you wanted to use as your starting file, you can select that from the drop-down list here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button and let that combine for me. Beautiful. Now what that's done is that is now loaded this new thing you can see up here on the fields list. It has loaded a new table into our data model called data tables. We have that in here. All of our information is in this. And what's really nice is you'll notice that on top of all of the columns that came from that, there's one here called source name. Just to quickly throw that onto the page, just to show you exactly what got imported. Let that load. There we are. You can see that it loaded the data from all three tables in here. Then as soon as I added a fourth or fifth file, all of that data would come in as well. So it's cumulative and will automatically refresh every time you do this. Now, data tables isn't a very good name. It doesn't really align with the rest of these. So I'm going to actually double click on here and I'm going to rename this to fact sales. Now you might be wondering what on earth does the fact and the dim that I'm writing or that I've imported in front of all these mean? Now the next thing that we're going to do in the upcoming video, we are going to discuss exactly what it means in terms of the dimension or lookup tables and the fact or data tables, because there are two table types, and it's really important to know about data modeling in Power BI, the reason that I imported all of these different tables instead of one single very large table, because there's very important reasons we're doing it this way. So that's going to be our next step. So let's go ahead and save this workbook now that we have the data in here. And I'll go ahead and see you in our next video.